Happy Sabbath to everyone.
Happy Sabbath.
I'll start in the beginning. I was born in Manhattan back in the 40s, late 40s. Grew up on Long Island. Back in those days, if anybody's an old baseball fan, New York had three baseball teams. New York Giants, New York Yankees, and the Brooklyn Dodgers. Willie, Mickey, and Duke were the center fielders. My favorite ball player at that time was Jackie Robinson. And as a young kid in first grade, I used to slide underneath the teacher's desk and think I was stealing home plate. Anyway, I grew up Catholic. I went to catechism classes. And the one thing that stuck out in my head was that every time we left the class, the nuns would look at us. And I'm a little fella, and the nuns are pointing down saying, remember, you can always talk to Jesus. You can always pray to him. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And that always stuck in my head. I don't remember all the different names of the nuns, but that always stuck in my head. So I'm not a wordsmith when it comes to prayers, but I always talk to Jesus all my life. After I graduated high school, I went to college at night. I graduated high school in '66. Went to college at night and worked in a Army-Navy surplus store during the day. In my second semester, I went to the doctor. I was feeling a little uncomfortable downstairs, and doctor sent me to a urologist, and he looked at me and he said, tomorrow we're going in and we're going to operate and remove your right testicle. I had testicular carcinoma, which back in the 60s was a long road, let's put it that way. And they removed it, and it was malignant. I wasn't shocked, but I had a rough night, let's put it that way. The next day when I got up out of the bed, and I was walking in the halls in the hospital, and I was having my conversations with the Lord, and I happened to look in this one room, and the first time in my life I saw a circular bed, and I didn't know what that was. And I asked the nurse, I said, what's with the fella in the circular bed? He said he was coming home from college, and he got into an accident. He's paralyzed from the neck down. And I said to myself, Lord, no matter what happens, I'll be okay. And that changed my attitude right there. 2 weeks later, they did an exploratory, slit me open in the middle. 6.5 hours later, they pulled out some lymph nodes and whatnot. The cancer had spread to the lymph nodes. Then I went for radiation treatment. The only problem was I was supposed to go into New York City's Columbia Presbyterian, but their machines were booked and other machines were being repaired, so it was a scramble to find a machine to get on for 6 weeks of radiation. Finally, there was one relatively close, a couple of towns over, that had an opening at about 6 in the morning. So every morning at 6 o'clock, I'd go there for radiation. I actually said to myself, I can work. Well, it wasn't but 3 hours after the radiation hit me, because they hit me over the stomach and down above the groin. I became nauseous for 6 hours. And my boss let me work the week, and I finally told him, I said, I can't work anymore. He said, fine, Ken, just do what you have to do. Just come back whenever you can. The radiation didn't work. The tumor spread to my lungs. I had 2 in the right, 1 in the left. And they said, well, we'll put you on chemotherapy. And knock on wood, I hope this is wood, there was a doctor in Philadelphia that came up with a combo of 3 different drugs that were, some of the drugs were out and some of them were experimental. And it was metatroxin, metatroxate, and actiniomycin D. And I was put on that, and they said it's roughly going to take 2.5 to 3 years. I went in for the first treatment at 214, and 63 days later, I was 149 pounds. I continued with the treatment. Meanwhile, I had worked also doing some commercials in New York City as a stagehand, as a pickup for when they didn't have enough people because things were busy. And a job offer came that they needed 2 people to start a new business or a new type of television, which was tape, videotape. And that was, they needed somebody there on March 17th, 1968. Now I'm still early into the treatment. And the tumors by this time are starting to lesion out, but they haven't spread outside my lungs. And I had and it wasn't a tough decision to make, either continue with the chemo or go to work for CBS News. And I said, what good is CBS News if I'm not going to be around? So that was the last treatment for that cycle. The next time they took x-rays, they said, where's the tumors? The tumors were gone. They were just gone. I mean, I was skinny, thin, and I gained weight back up, and I praised the good Lord for that. As life went on, I worked a little in the studios in the city, worked on a few movies and whatnot. But I really liked the water. Eventually, I got a job working for a seafood company. We hauled lobsters down from Maine, Nova Scotia, and sold them. And we had a good time. And I started to live more and more in the world and forgetting what had happened to me. Eventually, I got a job running a clam factory. And little by little, the boys, afterwards, we'd always go to Alice's place. So I was one of those guys that was going to Alice's place. And before I knew it, I was a functioning alcoholic. And I did that for about 20 years. And every morning I'd wake up and ask the good Lord, don't let me take that first drink. Well, I eventually rolled the truck one night, totally wiped it out in the reeds in the marsh. And when the cops came and they said, what happened? I said, I'm drunk. Arrest me for DWI. When they took me in, they went through my wallet. And in my wallet, I had about 12 get out of jail cards from various chiefs of police, from captains, lieutenants, whatever, from New York City to Nassau County to Suffolk County. And they said, who do you want me to call? I said, nobody. I said, the good Lord just saved my life. I said, I didn't hurt anybody. I said, and I thank the Lord for that. I said, it's a wake-up call. And I changed my life from there. I started going to AA, and I don't know if any of you know about the Serenity Prayer, but that was the first prayer other than the Our Father and the Hail Mary that stuck in my head. I'll just read it to you. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, with that, I I got married to a Seventh-day Adventist.
Amen.
And she, her whole family going back 3-4 generations, was a Filipino gal. And we had our differences over different things, and she would talk about the Sabbath and whatnot. I had an inkling back when I was in high school, because I used to like to read history and whatnot. The church, the Catholic Church then, was still baptizing, some as late as 1400s in some areas. And the one thing that stuck in my mind that I found out was St. Patrick was a Sabbath keeper. And that right there got me going, because when I was with my friends, I'd say, hey, did you know that St. Patrick is a Sabbath keeper? And they'd look at me like I was crazy. Now, I mean, I came from a culture that I probably, well, I do know. I know more Irish drinking songs than I do know hymns in the Bible right now. In hymns in the hymn, word for word. But I am so happy and more at peace with myself that I found what Jesus found me and dug me out of my various ditches in life.
Amen.
It's a combination of having that. There was a pastor over at First Church, Pastor Maxim, and he used to always talk about that oneness with God. Just having that daily conversation. And like Daniel prayed 3 times. And like I said, I'm not the greatest one when it comes to prayer, but you can always have a conversation with the good Lord throughout the day, no matter what you're doing or where you are.
Amen.
Tell him what's happening, plus and minuses, and spread the word. Let people know where you came from. In fact, the Adventist Church, when it first started out, they used to have socials. And I don't know if anybody knows what a social is here, but a social was nothing but testimonies, because they didn't have pastors in all churches. They were evangelists. And I think it's a great thing for everyone to get up and just let everybody know where you came from, because everybody comes from someplace different. I know it's short and it's sweet, but that's basically it, folks.
Amen.